Hi there, and welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Do you have a homestead, farm, or just dream of a rural life? This is a show to help you and your kids grow your own food and grow as a person. I'm your host, Kody Hanner. I'm a homesteader, homeschool mom of six, and small town enthusiast. I was raised by an old school rancher and blessed by the grace of God to have been exposed to so much of what rural life has to offer. Join me every week to talk about homesteading, homeschooling, and growth with a homestead education. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Homestead Education Podcast. Today, I have two guests on, Dennita and Mimi from the Little Red Schoolhouse, and I have been so excited to hear and share their mission with everybody. So thank you guys for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
So do you want to tell everyone a little bit about each of yourselves and what the Little Red Schoolhouse is?
Absolutely. Well, the Little Red Schoolhouse is a one-room schoolhouse in Dinwiddie County, Virginia. It is a faith-based one-room schoolhouse where we teach for about 3.5 hours every day inside the school in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we're outside learning homesteading skills. We're learning how to be entrepreneurs. And we also take care of the garden. We seed save, we plant, we harvest, we preserve, all the things that our grandparents once did that seems to be dying off in our culture. So we wanted to bring that back to life and give the children an opportunity to have real lifelong skills that will follow them through adulthood. And so that is what we do at the Little Red Schoolhouse.
I think that's amazing. I am so excited to have programs like this a thing again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so our children learn how to can, they freeze dry, they learn how to freeze and to do all the things that grandma used to do. And I remember as a child being inside the kitchen watching grandma can and grandma sew. And I used to think when I was little, one day I'm going to be just like that. But you know how life is. You get busy, you have children. We had 5 children. We grew a garden, but it was hard to be a true homesteader. So opening the school really opened up the opportunity for us to really be diligent about being homesteaders, like really paying attention to what we're eating, what we're growing, making sure that we have all heirloom seeds that we're seed saving and growing the following year. So it's just an opportunity to really share that with this generation.
Well, what I really see with that is that it teaches them how to make it part of their everyday life, like from day one. This isn't an optional thing or a hobby or a side thing. This is just part of how we do life.
You're
And I think
right.
that's a big piece that's been missing.
You're right. And we teach them that. We teach them about the food that we are able to purchase at a grocery store. We talk about how when we go to a grocery store, which aisles we should be going down. And even though we go through the outside of the grocery store, hitting the produce and the dairy, we even talk about pasteurized milk, how that's different from raw milk, because I have raw milk at the farm. We make our own butter and yogurt and cheese.
Amazing.
And so those are skills that are going to be lifelong skills for the children, and they can also eat organically and be able to produce their own food. And that's important for them to be self-sufficient in this day, because the food that they're eating, the sources that they're getting their food from are not the best sources for them.
Hey guys, I know that we are always looking for ways to connect our homeschool kids with our communities and find things to do when we're out and about. Plus, it is so important to be connecting with like-minded families and those that have the same interests that we do. That's why I'm so excited to announce the new app that just launched. Basecamp Ed is a community-based platform for parents to find like-minded families and dedicated teachers in their area. Whether you homeschool your children, are curious about it, or simply want to build a community of extracurricular activities, Basecamp Ed has you covered. Connect with local parents to create co-ops, form groups for your children's interests, and use the calendar to schedule events with ease. Teachers and coaches can also create profiles to list their credentials for parents to find a way to supplement subjects and activities. Homeschooling was never meant to be done alone. It takes a village. Build it with Basecamp Ed. Take advantage of this free resource and download it today. You can also follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Basecamp Ed app for the latest updates. And you can get the link to that in the show notes for this episode. No, it's not. And I mean, I just did a local food class with some kids in Michigan. And I
Yeah.
mean, I just brought in a, it was a pack of tomatoes from Walmart in a package.
Wow.
The two tomatoes looked exactly alike. And I was like, this is creepy almost. And then I stopped at like a farm store there and bought a couple heirloom tomatoes and was like showing the kids, see, they don't come in a package. They look completely different. They
Yes.
look completely different from these ones, but this is what tomatoes like are supposed to look like. These were designed to look this
That's
way.
right.
And I actually had the moms coming up to me afterwards being like, my kid said they would try that tomato. Where did you get it? And I was like, I flew into Michigan last night and was able to find an heirloom tomato like that. Like, come on, guys. Like, this
Wow.
is so it's really surprising to see that there is that disconnect across the country. And but at the same time, I'm seeing so many families just begging for and dying for this information for themselves and their children.
Yes, the parents that we have that bring their children to school are really excited that the children have the opportunity to explore these ideas and to be part of that hands-on learning. We also have beehives. Like Kody, this year we started in January with 4 beehives.
Mhm.
We have 14 now. With
Wow.
the need to even have more because we haven't had time to split the hive, so they're splitting naturally. And then the children are capturing those bee swarms up in the trees. But we're teaching children how
Yeah.
to live off the land and how to find their own medicine, how to identify herbs out in the woods and what it looks like and what are the herbicides and pesticides that farmers are putting on their farm crops that are killing our bees? And what does this mean for humans? So they're really cognizant of these ideas and how to be more conservative and take that approach when looking for food sources and owning their own food sources. A lot of the children that attend our school just want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be farmers. They want to be a couple of the children want to be vet techs, but most of them want to be farriers or they want to go into plumbing or things like that. A lot of them want to be farmers. They want to grow their own food, so they're learning how to farm using rotational crop methods and preserving the land. We have a worm farm at the school, so they know the significance of worms and how to make worm tea and get those microbes in the soil. They know what good soil looks like as opposed to soil that you probably don't want to use to grow your own food. And they see the difference because we have 2 plots of that where they're able to grow and to see the significance of worms in the soil and how those microbes just are game changer for their plants. So it's really interesting for the children to see that and to understand that. And then we have field trips that come to the farm from public school and from other private schools, and the children teach children that come to visit us what that looks like, and they're able to really share and pour into children that might not otherwise ever be privy to this kind of information. So it's fun to watch that. When we went to school, you and I, and if you went to public school,
Mm-hmm.
we went into one of those situations where the teacher would say, here's a list of mammals. I want you to pick a mammal, do some research, and then you're going to stand in front of the class and you're going to deliver the speech. Well, that's all fine, but the children at the school, the Little Red Schoolhouse, they're living this lifestyle. They're not
Mm-hmm.
picking from a list and then arbitrarily finding facts that they have to regurgitate in front of their classmates. They're living this style every single day at school. So when field trips come, they're really the experts at teaching this to the children, which just gives so much validity to the children that come to the farm. It's so wonderful to see. And that public speaking piece, it's so easy for the children. They can talk to adults, they can talk to children,
Mhm.
and they understand, they own that information because, like I said, they're living this lifestyle every single day at school. We just processed 99 chickens at the farm. The children raised them from when they were, when they hatched.
Mhm.
So during that 12, 15 weeks that we had them living at the farm in winter, of course, we started in February so we could be done
We've
by
done that.
by the time spring break comes around. There's nothing worse in Virginia than having to move chicken tractors in the middle of the heat and seeing the chickens just panting because it's so hot outside of those
Mm-hmm.
chicken tractors. So we tried it this year during February, and the children really bought into taking care of them, understanding
Yeah.
that we're not naming these. This is food. And for as much as your mom goes to Chick-fil-A and buys you a Chick-fil-A sandwich, you need to understand that that chicken's coming from somewhere. Of course, not a farm like ours. They're coming from a different kind of farm,
Yeah.
but the food that we're growing here is healthy for your body, and they understand that. And to me, there's nothing more important than a child being able to understand how to source their own organic food.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when in my book on raising self-sufficient kids, I have a whole section just on giving kids ownership in their chores.
Yes.
And like on our farm, our kids don't have chores, they have management roles.
I like that.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love
I
that.
because
love
chores are a
that.
monotonous everyday
Yes.
thing. But when
And there's
you're,
a negative connotation with that too. So that's a
there is.
mind shift that you've just created with the children.
hmm So, I mean, like my kids, like my little kids are the chicken managers. My
Yeah.
16-year-old runs our raw dairy. And, then families go, okay, well, there's a lot of steps to that on a farm. How do I implement that when I don't live on a farm? And I'm like, they're the management of the garbage, like it's your job to be able to look at the calendar and know what day it goes out. It's your job to let me know when I need to order more garbage bags. It's your job to make sure that the trash can is cleaned out.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And that ownership that these kids have, like we do farm tours and my kids do the tours.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they teach the kids and the adults about everything that's, happening on our farm. And I just stand back to kind of like maybe fill in the blanks or, and to watch them, as homeschool kids, when they, go out with other kids, sometimes they're not talking about what's going on social media and that type of stuff. And I watch their like kind of confidence go down a little. And then we get people on the farm and they just blossom. Like you
Yes.
can see that that's like their passion.
That's the most beautiful thing right now because we already know that that dopamine and that dopamine rush that the children are getting from watching a screen and being connected to a screen. First of all, we already know that that culture is raising this generation because
Oh,
so many
yeah.
parents put their
Right.
children in front of a screen.
Right.
But the children that are not subjected to that culture, like the children that attend the Little Red Schoolhouse, we don't
hmm
have technology. There have been a lot of people that have sort of bashed us about that because we're not teaching that. And I tell people, that time will come. I remember when I was in high school, I learned typing. There was no reason for me to not learn it in high school.
Yeah.
There's no reason for a child not to learn coding or things like that when they get to high school, if that's something that they want to go into.
hmm
But for now, at the Little Red Schoolhouse, we don't need technology. We need
No.
children to have explicit direct instruction during the day for the 3.5 hours that we're in the school. And then we need
hmm
children to have that instruction outside underneath God's beautiful
Yes.
sunshine, allowing
Yes.
them to be children to climb trees, to ground, to run around barefoot. I mean, these are the things that we want children to be able to do. We don't want them to be glued to a desk, and we want them to be able to grow and to be nurtured in a very holistic way. And so I'm really proud of the things that we've established. I want to say too, for your viewers, as a former public school teacher of 23 years, one of the deficits that I saw in public school, not only what we're filling the gaps in here at the Little Red Schoolhouse, but there was a huge deficit in financial literacy. And I recently went to a Grant Cardone seminar and really understood how deep that deficit runs. So we've made it our mission for this next school year to really hone in on that whole financial literacy piece. While I learned a little bit of financial literacy in school, when I was in high school, that was not necessarily enough. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need to understand, what does that look like? What does it mean to get an EIN number? What does it mean to have
hmm
a bank account? What does it mean to make sure that you have a business that's a viable business and that's a name that you can call your business, that you're not wasting your time and using a name that you're not allowed to have? And so we've got a couple of the children have decided they want to open a sourdough bakery.
Oh,
And
perfect.
one of them came to me and said, "Can we open this bakery next year?" I said, "Absolutely. Like, I'm going to help you fund that. We've got the sourdough starter." And she said, "We're going to sell loaves for $10." I said, "Well, I'm so proud of you." And she said, "Specialty loaves will be 14." And I said, "That's great." And she said, "So what do we do with the 10 and $14?" I said, "Contrary mon frere, we've got to go back and talk about what are the things that you have to pay when you are when you're renting a place? What does it look like to purchase your supplies? What does it look like to pay electricity? If you're selling freeze-dried goods during our events at our farm, we have about 10,000 people that come to our farm every year. If you're selling freeze-dried goods, how do you decide what you're going to charge? What does it look for that profit loss margin, and how much should you save every time that you are earning money? Like, is that 20%, 10%? What do you do with that money? How do you invest that money? And so these are the things that we want to teach them, because as an entrepreneur, we don't spend enough time in that field in our public school sector. And so we want to make certain that the children that attend the Little Red Schoolhouse really understand, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, and how do you begin that process? And our kids are serious about doing it this next year. So I'm really excited for them.
I think that's really amazing, because it's one thing to learn entrepreneurship on paper. It's another thing to actually be doing it. And
Absolutely.
what a huge difference. I mean, and yeah, I wasn't in the public school sector in my previous career. I worked in commercial agriculture. And when I started homeschooling my kids and wanted to teach them ag, that's where I saw that huge deficit in what is being taught. Because I started digging, looking for curriculums, and everything was about
Yes,
very commercial agriculture, and there was almost nothing to guide homeschoolers or small programs. And
that's
I
right.
just like, and so I started digging into like ag in the classroom. Okay, that's more like what kids are doing. And it was, do people really go in and like have kids make like a pudding worm farm and call that ag in the classroom? Like,
No.
that's not education. And so, I mean, that's how, I don't know if you guys looked into what I do very much before the show. I have the only full year agriculture science for high schoolers, for homeschoolers on the market,
Yes.
because the people aren't teaching it at that level that integrates into real life.
Right.
And I took this to an ag show recently, my first time going to an ag show. I've always done homestead and homeschool stuff. And I thought, oh man, they're just going to run me out of this building. But I'm willing to be here and do it and have the conversations and have these hard conversations. And
Yeah.
instead, I saw ag teachers coming to me and saying, this is what my kids want to learn. This is what the parents want them to learn. They don't, if they want to go into vocational agriculture, great. And we have our FFA stuff that we do, great. But we don't have that integration into how it's happening in real life. And so, I mean, what you guys are doing is being begged for, not only from like the parents, but from people in agriculture education, but they don't know how to make that shift.
We know that. Well, our wait list right now is over 100 people
I'm
waiting for
sure.
children into the school. In fact, I was just telling Mimi before the show, the podcast, that we have parents that are a little upset because they can't get their children in this year. We've raised our tuition numbers. We keep raising them every year. We started the first year with 10. We started last year or 2 years ago with 21. This year, 26, and then we're going into our next year with 35 children.
Oh my
We have
goodness.
enough children to fill another school. So the
Yeah.
need is great. And we have parents all over the United States that tell us, we'll move. I'm like, no. I mean, there's so much value in it. Parents understand that they get this one shot at raising their children very well and to protect them and their innocence, because once that's stolen from them, you don't get that back. And they understand that the public school setting is where, and even some private schools, it's being stolen from them so quickly.
Yeah.
Parents can't even keep up with it. So they're begging for this all over the United States. And that is where we decided to create this network where now we're going across the United States, sharing the success that we've had here in Virginia. We're going in our 4th year, sharing the success in the school model with others and teaching them. These are not franchises, but we're teaching them how to begin schools in their communities. And it's just a beautiful site. We have, like I said, 20 schools going up this year, 15 right now, 5 more getting ready. Some of them are opening this August. So it's a fantastic model that we're able to share. And it's beautiful when they can start beginning the school on a homestead or a farm. So we always ask people, if you can find a homesteader or somebody that owns a farm, if they have a building, if they have a roller skating rink, if whatever it takes, if you can just get into a building and start teaching, children don't care if it's a beautiful building. It just has to be appropriate enough for them to get through the school day and to be comfortable in it, and it's safe, of course.
Well, one
And
piece
then
of the education could be just getting the building ready.
you're right. Teaching them how to build. I mean, I can't tell you how many of our boys with ADD and ADHD, and we have a high number of children now that are being overly identified in those two areas. But if they're outside building like bee boxes, we get
Yep.
our bee boxes shipped to us from Amazon. We could build them, but we get them from Hoover Beehives. And then when they come, the boxes are placed on a picnic table. And I tell the children, look, we have 5 bee boxes that were just shipped to us. I need you to unbox them and build them. I need them built by tomorrow. You have 24 hours. I'll give you 48 tops to get them built.
Mhm.
They have to build them and put them together. And if you know what a beehive looks like, it comes to you in all parts and nothing's put
Mhm.
together. So they can go outside and I can say, get them built, and they take 2 days to build a beehive, which makes me happy because they now have ownership of the hive. They have bee suits. They know how to take care of them. It's just a wonderful step in just teaching children how to be self-sufficient in this modern world.
Absolutely. And that model, I have this one of my sons was like, I'm sure he's convinced that I invented math to ruin his life. He refused to like, do any type of reading comprehension or anything like that. And I mean, he was getting up into his mid-teens and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this kid. Like, and but he loved hands-on work.
Yes.
And so I bought a book on homestead building projects because I liked the way it was broke down. And I put it on the kitchen table and I said, I need a trellis built for the garden. And I just don't know if I'm going to have time to get it done. And then I kind of whined about it for a couple of days, just not whine, but like that conversation, like, oh,
Uh-huh.
am I going to have time to get out there and work on
You're
that?
planting
And
that seed.
yeah. And next thing I know, the book was gone. And he comes in with it and he's like, what does this word mean? If you needed 2 trellises, how do I add these 2 fractions together? And I mean, it was like he was coming to me wanting that information. Next thing
Good.
I know, he built me 3 trellises and he needed more wood. So he found a cabinet shop in town that gave away free wood that they weren't using. And he sourced all the materials and started building these trellises and selling them, all just on his own.
Oh,
Anything he could do to get out of school.
isn't
And
it just fantastic?
the next
And
year,
look
he
at
got
our homeschool community. I mean, for years they have been in the shadow of the public school sector, but we know that our homeschool parents just pour so much knowledge. Let me give you an example. We had to have some asphalt poured and laid at the school before we could open so we could have a parking lot. And the man showed up with his young son, looked like maybe he was 6th grade, 5th grade. And I said, hey, I said, you get the day off? He goes, no. I said, but you're with your dad. It's a school day, isn't it? He goes, yeah. I said, oh. And he came up to me later. He said, my son is homeschooled and I'm teaching him the business in the afternoon. He either homeschools in the morning or he homeschools at night, depending on our
Mhm.
schedule. But I'm teaching him the business because he's going to take over the business when he's old enough and he will graduate when he's 15.
Yep.
I mean, can I get an amen on that?
Right?
We don't do that in public school. My own
No.
daughter wanted to graduate when she was 15. She ended up being valedictorian of her school. And I asked her guidance counselor, I said, may she graduate early if she finishes all of her assignments in her classes? He said, no, we don't do that. But why? I mean, so many children don't need to stay in school to the age of 18. It's a money racket, honestly. We don't set our children up for success. If they're able to take over a business and start learning or start learning a trade, let's let them learn. There's no reason to
Yeah.
keep them in school if they don't need to be there.
Well, our son, he ended up getting working for an electrician's apprentice. As an electrician's apprentice, he's been doing it for 5 years and is going to school. Um, while he's going to school, he couldn't stay with the electrician's apprentice for the moment. So, or as an apprentice. So he's the foreman for a painting company because they were just trying to find a guy who actually knew construction. And I mean, he's doing great and he stopped going to school at 15.
There you
because
go.
that was what he needed. And I think that this model of high school being a place where you just go to learn academics is, it should have never switched to that model. High school should be where you're learning your vocation. And
Like,
if your vocation is going to be like a doctor, then okay, that's where you do your chemistry and advanced maths and that type of stuff, because that's your next step is college. But if your
that's
next
correct.
step is not college, you don't need to be doing those things. And this is even coming from somebody who loved college, like it's just not, it's not a sustainable model.
Well, it's a model that we've had in place for over 100 years, and it's not really changing with the times. And we know that the trades are dying. There aren't enough kids wanting to go into the trades. And so it's really important that
And
we
they're told that it's bad.
they're right. They are. There's such a negative connotation with even
Hmm.
thinking about that or going to a skill center during high school. But I remember when I taught high school, the children that didn't really come to school very often, that had a poor attendance record and weren't the ones that wanted to sit and learn chapter after chapter, regurgitate that on the test, were not the ones that were picked up to go to skill center, but probably would have been the ones that did the best at skill center because they
Yeah.
wanted to go to auto mechanic shop. They wanted to
Hmm.
go learn HVAC. Those were the things that they wanted to do. They never wanted to be in school and be book smart. They wanted to learn a trade and leave school and have a trade so that they could have a job. And we don't do that anymore. One of the girls that works for me, a teacher, she said just recently that her daughter was graduating, and she said, I'm so sad. I was sad when I went to the school, and I heard from my daughter, actually. She said that the kids all had to bring a shirt, and they had to write their commitment on a shirt inside the common area, which is their lunchroom. And I looked at her and I said, well, why is that sad? And she said, well, think about all the kids that aren't going to college. I said, you're absolutely right. What about Dennis, who is taking over his dad's farm, or little Harry over there, who's going to take over his dad's automobile mechanic business? Or
Hmm.
maybe John wants to go to HVAC, or maybe Susie wants to be a homemaker. We don't even teach homemaking anymore. We don't teach sewing, cooking, anything
No.
to help these children have an alternative for their future. It's a one box. You have to go to college. We prepare you to go to college. The classes that you're taking are college credit, are classes you've got to have to get into college. And if
Hmm.
you don't take them, well, by golly, you're a failure. And that's
Yep.
untrue.
And then their numbers and monies don't look good. And then you have, women who go to high school, go to college, and then they get married and have kids and don't know how to raise them, don't know how to feed them, don't know how to run a house. It's affecting the family and beyond. I mean, you can't even be a good employee at your corporate job that you got if you don't have any type of interpersonal skills that you're not being taught in school anymore.
That's correct. And I have to say, the children that attend the Little Red Schoolhouse, they definitely have those interpersonal skills. They're able, like my farm manager, she's 9 years old. She's been managing the barn since she was 7.5.
Yeah.
And so she's just grown so much, and she's able now to take over the farm and to do things that most children would never be able to do. If I say, hey, Monroe, like the chickens are flying out of the chicken coop, I need you to go clip their wings. She's out there clipping wings, and she has it done before everyone else is done with lunch because she can't wait to do that. If I say, hey, we've got some mites on some chickens, we've got to go ahead and get that ivermectin out. Let's go ahead and get them treated. She's got everybody treated before I can even bat my eyelashes because I've raised her as her
Hmm.
school mom to have a sense of responsibility. She has good work ethic, which we don't teach children anymore. In fact, let's talk about that work ethic. What does that
Yes.
look like in school? A 50 now is the new 0. You don't
Hmm.
want to do your assignments. You don't want to do your work. The principal will come and say, you can't fail, Johnny. Johnny gets a 50 in your class. You're like, are you kidding me? Like, how can Johnny earn a 50? And then if the principal says, and then this happened to me, we've got to get these kids to graduate. What can we do? Can you help them? Can you give them extra credit? No. And then
Yeah.
they'll go in and change the scores on them so
Hmm.
that they will walk commencement, because that on-time graduation is a huge thing in these districts. So
There's zero accountability for the children in
there's
these
no more
schools.
accountability. We don't teach children how to show up. We don't teach them how to talk. We don't teach them how to shake a hand. We don't teach them about your word is like a promise, like your word is gold. gold. You don't even need to write it out. My children know if you give me your word, I don't need to go back and check on you. But I will if I think that I need to, but I don't need to because your word is gold with me. And so these are the things that we're instilling in children that they're just not getting in public school anymore. But it's all the same sense of responsibility and hard work that our parents grew up with. And look at us. We turned out really well. We were outside hoeing acres and acres of corn growing up, our personal acres that mom and daddy had, and growing our own foods. And, you know, we didn't fall off the wayside. We had hard work. We learned that hard work gives you a great product and you don't need to worry about anything else. Just hard work, loving Jesus and loving your family and your country. Those are the things that were instilled in us, and we turn out to be great people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see all the time this issue with, I mean, it's kind of become like almost a bad word, but the entitlement in children is ridiculous. And, we started seeing it, it's been really bad the last few years, but we started homeschooling almost 9 years ago now. And we had an eighth grader at the time, and he flat out would not turn in his homework, just wouldn't do it. And, we're struggling with him and stuff. And so, we're working with his counselor and we're up at the school and doing all these things. And they're like, well, we find, if we make them do it, like we don't need to be making them do anything. So
You
I was
should
like,
want
fine.
it intrinsically.
So yeah, I was like, fine, okay, I'll do the like step back and let him fail. Like tough love, mom. And so we stepped back and didn't make him do anything because we're like, if he fails, he's gonna have to work harder to like, graduate from eighth grade with his friends and stuff. So we're gonna do that. And grades came out and he had like B's in all his classes. And I went up to the school, like I was mad. I'm like, where is his failing grade? The grade he earned. Because I was watching the computer, the iPad to see that he wasn't
Right.
turning anything in. And
Wow.
they're like, well, he got a few things to us right at the end. And I was like, yeah, that essay, I saw that essay. I mean, it was two paragraphs about why kids should play sports. And it was sports are good because sports are good and it's bad to not play sports. Like that was his essay in the eighth grade. And I said, this is not acceptable work. And they said, well, we really find that giving the kids a good grade for just doing it, they really like that. I'm like, well, no, duh. But it doesn't teach them any accountability at all. And that was actually, I think we pulled all the kids out at the end of that semester. Like that was one of my final draws. I was like, I can't anymore. This is ridiculous. And we have younger children in the school system and we had a new baby. And I was like, this is the end of the line for that because I I want my children to have accountability, integrity, like you said, all you have is your word. And that's what I tell my teenage boys when they walk out the door. All a man has is his word. So what's integrity? And they say doing the right thing when no one's looking.
That's right.
Out the door they go. And they carry that strong sense with them a lot. And when they don't carry that with them, then they have to write it down a lot.
It's
Because
just
I want that
crazy.
as like a constant thing in their head.
It's just crazy
Hmm.
how we're just not doing the job anymore. And our children are leaving school after 13 years, and they're not prepared for life. And that was so concerning to me. So I'm really glad that we're going into our fourth year. And I'm glad that we have these schools popping up across the United States. We definitely want your viewers to know how to get involved in this network.
Yeah, that
It's
was
a
gonna be my
network.
next.
We're
Like, do you
reading.
have a framework or?
Yeah, so we have developed this network where we're helping other people, pouring into them and teaching them how to create a school. And I'm gonna let Mimi talk to you about that because she's my director of operations and she's really good at it. So she's gonna
Awesome.
share with you what that looks like.
Yeah, let's hear about this.
So Kody, the first thing that I want to just share is that the need is so great. We've known that the need is great. Homeschool moms have pioneered this for many years, but now the general public is at a place where they're like, what are we going to do? I do not want my 3, 4, or 5-year-olds I don't want them to come, and I don't want them to be a part of a school system where their innocence is going to be taken from them.
People
So
are
that's the
begging
first,
for this.
they're begging. So we've done reels, and what made us just know in our heart that this is something we have to do right now is when we found out with doing several reels a year ago that went viral with over 3 million views, 5,000 comments. How do we answer all these people?
Yeah.
They don't want their child to go to school. They don't want their child to be exposed to sitting at a desk, being put on medication because that child wants to be active and learn and be a part of the learning process. They don't want their child to be exposed to things that aren't even available or they're not even exposed to in their home because they want to protect their children. And
Mhm.
we found out that these younger moms are like, enough is enough. Now,
Yeah.
what do you do with that? So we looked at each other and we were like, we have to start somewhere. So we started with some simple seminars, how to begin a school in your community, what that would look like. Dennita put together an amazing administrative manual that gives a teacher or a mom or a church the ability to jump in and have everything they need in one manual to actually start a school in their community. So we've taken the guesswork out. It's phenomenal because now we've got the opportunity to pour into them at whatever level they want. And so we've got some parents and some teachers that need a lot of help and want to get started. And then we've got others that just say, give me the manual, let me run with it. And we're trying to empower people in their own communities because we have over 3,000 communities in this country. 3,000. We can't fill even our own community in Dinwiddie
Yeah.
County. We can't even fulfill a big enough building to take care of all the children.
Right.
We have people moving to Dinwiddie County from Washington, D.C., relocating because they're like, I have to go somewhere where my child will be taught and protected. Now, that being said, the value is anybody can do this if they've got the right tools. And our job is to empower people and give them permission to run with a playbook and with an administrative manual that will impact their community, whether it's 10 kids they want to do, whether it's a dozen, whether it's 15, 30. We have some people starting and they want to have 50 kids in the next 5 years. Go for it because
Wow.
the children are coming. And we found out that when people make a decision to do it and they do a couple of Facebooks and a couple of Instagrams, their enrollment, we've got a girl that just was at a seminar in October. Her enrollment is already at 20 children in Kentucky.
Oh, I
Wow.
have families drive an hour and a half to come to our co-op because of the self-sufficient classes we teach there.
Yes.
And it's just for 1 day a week.
The thing is, we found
Because
out
it's
that some
just
of the
an
Yep. And some of the homeschool moms and some of the teachers, they're like, can I do this? Can I do this? So if we send one message to all of your homesteaders and your viewers today is your tools and your desire and your heart to be able to teach others, it is needed. And yes,
Mhm.
you can do it because society has pounded us down. Can I do this? Can I do this? Let me tell you, there's a movement and it's more than that. It's actually a revolution.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
call it a learning revolution
Yes,
absolutely.
for us and for what we want to provide to our children.
And let me tell you, you are going to be on the road more because what you're doing is bringing value and people need to hear what you're saying
Mhm.
because you have been a forerunner, taking this to so many different places and communities and seminars and networks. We decided we were going to do 4 seminars a year. It's not enough.
No.
We are now doing 1 seminar every month. But we're having to maintain what we already do, but we feel the need to keep teaching and empowering people and give them the tools that they need. So we've got a Facebook community that's in our network. We've got other tools in our network. Zoom, we've got phonics, but we've got just the first layer is, do you want to start a school? If you do, meet us on a Zoom or come out in person to Virginia. Walk through, see what that looks like. So we've got one coming up in June, another seminar.
June 27th and 28th is our next seminar.
We'd love to
Okay.
join us too.
Yeah, next time I come to Virginia, I am definitely. No, it's not. Are you looking for new ways to advertise your business? I would like to invite you to advertise your business on the Homestead Education Podcast. Did you know that 60% of listeners will make a purchase after hearing an ad on a podcast? Why is this? Because personal connections and credibility from someone they truly trust will give you the best conversions. My podcast has been on the air for over 3 years now, and with an average of 5,000 downloads per episode and tons of long-term listeners, you're bound to have somebody who will find that credibility in me. All ad spots will be promoted on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and my weekly newsletter. I have podcast sponsorship spots available that are affordable for all business sizes. And all advertising revenue will be used towards my educational outreach in the form of travel costs, curriculum development, supplies, and the administration of such activities. Go to my show notes now or visit thehomesteadeducation.com/podcast dash sponsorship. I hope to hear from you soon.
You have to come see us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the new
It's not on
stuff,
the list for like, the next couple months, but I'm keeping it in mind.
Virginia is a great place. A lot of history here. In fact, our children don't even sit at a desk and learn history. We're out and about learning history. We do at least 2 field trips a month. I'd like that to
Oh,
be
wow.
1 a week because
Mhm.
there's so much to
I
learn.
know every year when we come out, we stay for a whole week so that we can see everything we can possibly see.
There's a lot to see, starting with the first permanent English settlement, which was in Jamestown in 1607. So that definitely is a great place to start. But like Mimi was saying, like we're growing exponentially. And we are so excited for that because this is not a movement, Kody. This is an
Mhm.
education
That's
revolution.
right.
Parents
Mhm.
are taking education back, and we
Yeah.
want to give them everything they need in their hands to move forward and get this out of the hands of our state schools, our state-run schools. They are not for our children. And so I also want to say, even though Mimi eloquently stated what this all looks like, I want to say also that there are a lot of people that just don't have a farm or a homestead.
Mhm.
I didn't start at the farm. We have a 25-acre farm in Dinwiddie. And while we were building the building, we needed to have a place to go to in August because our building wasn't done. So I ended up going to a church across the street. Voila! Churches are empty classrooms Monday through Friday. And look how many
Mhm.
churches have not fully regained their membership since COVID. There are so many churches that are even closing. But moreover than that, we teach Christianity in our school. We teach about God and Jesus. So it
Yeah.
just makes good sense that we have the opportunity to begin these schools in churches. I know that the school in Kentucky, she's so precious, Cameron, she's beginning her school in Kentucky, and she's going to have a garden outside the church. The church members have given her permission. She's going to have a couple chicken coops out there. She's going to have a bee box. And there's another farm that's starting in Georgia, right?
Yes.
We're gifting them one of our mini cows, 2 of our mini pigs, some of our fluffy, silky chickens to get them started. Like this is a village helping one another.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
all here. We're not
Well,
reinventing the wheel. We're handing it to you.
that's such a big piece is building that
Yes.
community again, the local food, the relying on your community. You stop
Yeah.
relying on the systems.
Absolutely. When you pull yourself out of the system, not only is it a paradigm shift, but it's a mind shift and it changes everything. Actually, it's going to help you live longer in this world, but you're going to become so valuable as we progress in time because the things that we're teaching children now are things that nobody finds value for anymore, hardly in a grocery store. I just went to the grocery store the other day to get some things for our tortoise. He eats a lot of kale. We can't grow enough kale for our tortoise. So I have to go get the organic kale at the grocery store for him.
Get those kids out there digging a new plot.
We would be growing a lot of kale. We go through we go through 2 pounds of kale a day. That's 14 pounds in a week because our peafowl eat it as well. But when I went to the grocery store, I just sat and watched people fill their carts and come up to pay for it. And if you sit there and you just take it all in, we live in a generation where everything has to be instantaneous and everything has to be highly processed. Nobody wants to go back and cook from scratch. All those homesteaders on Instagram that are cooking from scratch, there is value there.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's value there. Cooking like grandma cooked, getting a can of peaches off the shelf.
It's not as hard as people believe it is.
No, there's
Once
so
you get into the
value.
routine, it's just life.
Absolutely.
And then, that's something I teach on the road a lot is you don't have to have a homestead to do this. So, I mean, if
No.
these schools, even if they can't have a garden and stuff at their schools, there's so many things they can do.
You're
You know,
absolutely right.
even with us 1 day a week, we have cooking classes, we have sewing classes. We teach survival and homesteading and if the kids they started microgreens, I just took them home with them and I watered them for the week and I brought them back. Like there's little steps that you can do. The boys this year are building chicken tractors. I say boys, but it's mainly boys signing up for the class. They're building chicken tractors to then auction off to support our school.
That's
So
fantastic.
they're getting to learn all of that and be able to say like what we made off of it and how much it costs to source supplies.
Mhm.
We had a class where the teenagers got to teach all the other teenagers something. And I was like, I wonder what they're going to teach. They were teaching how to like clean fish and bake bread. And I was like, man, these kids are awesome. Like I have cool kids. And, so they learned so much there, even though we couldn't have like a full farm. Like we were bringing in animals, we go on field trips to other farms. So it's like if you're doing 5 days a week, you could have a farm that every Monday you go and muck their stalls and get eggs and, whatever else it is that you need to do.
You're right. I was telling you about those chickens that we had at the farm in February, and we grew out for 12, 15 weeks before we
Hmm.
harvested them. I opened it up to the entire school. I said, if you want to come, if you want your child to come, or if you want to come and learn how to process your own food, come,
Right.
just join me. And so some of them did. And they ended up, and they still do. They buy the food that we source at the farm.
Hmm.
They know it's 100% organic, but moreover than that, they know that their children were the ones that helped sustain their lives. We started with 100, we ended with 100, but only processed 99. One of them has a bum leg, and we felt sorry for it. It's a boy, and he ended up being a good, like a hen. And so we ended up keeping him, and he uh, got a reprieve. He was able to stay with us. He'll stay with us for a long time. But my
Were they Cornishes?
No,
Okay.
they were, oh my goodness, the name escapes
Red
me.
Rangers?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Because we
Red
had
Ranger.
Cornishes one time and a rooster got too old to where he could breed. And then
Yeah, the
we
ones break.
we incubated a group of eggs. We didn't realize he was breeding and they all came out deformed. So
Oh,
that would be very scary. It was very traumatizing for my children. So even
yeah.
my older kids, they were like, what is wrong with these? So
Well, what I wanted to say is that my 8-year-old, my farm manager, who's now 9, she
mhm,
came and stayed the entire day and
sure.
processed
Yeah,
each of those chickens with me, did the whole process, was
amazing.
unabashed, did not care. She said, I just want to learn.
Mhm,
This is the child that's going to be able to take these skills forward. And that's
yeah.
what we want to cultivate. We want to create a culture that not only finds value like you and I do in this
Mhm,
movement, but that they're able to go when we're gone and to teach this to their children and to other children. That's
yeah.
how we take back and we reclaim the things that were so wonderful about our generation. And we don't see that become, a dying culture. We want that to continue. So I'm
Mhm.
really proud of her being able to do that. And I
Yeah.
encourage everyone, whether it be meat rabbits or in your case, pigs, whatever the case, there's so much to learn there. And to be able to source your own food is just the most important thing outside of teaching children about Jesus. It's the most important thing to teach
Mhm.
our children.
Well, it's been, society's driving force for since, the day we stepped on Earth. And
That's right.
it's the importance of it is being downgraded so much. And yeah, that like the thing with the chickens, we're doing a survival class. It was 16 weeks. We started quail in the incubator on day one. They got to see the whole process. But the
Yes.
last day of class, they dispatched and field dressed all those quail by hand and cooked them over the fire with their fire starters that they had made.
Oh,
And the whole school shut down and came for fresh quail right off the stick?
that's
It
fantastic.
was so cool. And we live in a very like rural area. I had the grizzly guy come in and talk to the kids. And what it was is kids, they can say like, yes, bird equals food. If I get lost in the woods, it's fine. I'll eat a bird. But how do you get it from bird to food? And
Right.
that was what these kids got to do. And that was like that hands-on learning. I don't think they're going to be running around popping heads off birds and eating them. It's that if they ever are in that situation, they're going to feel comfortable making the right choice, the best choices for themselves. So,
Even as they become adults, they have an
Mhm.
option to make a better choice than going and buying a processed meal at their local
Mhm.
grocery store or a fast food place.
Yeah.
They can eat healthy and sustain their lives and not be, we'll have a whole lot less people that are unhealthy and on
And the more people that
medication.
grow food, that leaves more of a margin for the other side of agriculture to maybe make some changes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the only way some big changes are going to happen. So,
Absolutely.
do you guys want to tell everyone, how they can find you guys, how they can get into your network, like all that good stuff?
Yep. So it's very simple. Go to the Red Schoolhouse Network, and there you will see who we are, what we're about. Follow our Instagram page, which is the One-Room Red Schoolhouse, and that has underscores in between each word.
I'll
You'll
make
see.
sure I link all this.
Yes, we've got a very big following there, and it's just growing. Do you know, in February we only had 60-some thousand followers, and now it was over
Like double that.
115. Yeah, almost
Yeah.
120 right now. It's because people
Find value.
they find value in becoming known. People did not know that there's homesteaders everywhere, and now there's people starting to do schools. And so we're just humbled to be a part of people's lives to help them put these pieces together. We can't do it all. It's going to take all of us to do this, but the time is now, because now is when we need it most. So thank you so much for having us. We appreciate you, and we're in love with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Because it's huge. It's really huge.
I appreciate that. It's been my mission to teach a whole generation and their families. So,
love it.
We love it.
Well, thank you so much, guys. And I ask everybody who comes on the podcast, what does keep growing mean to you?
Oh my gosh, keep growing. I love it.
Isn't it a fun one?
It means 10xing your life. That's
yes. You just read the book, didn't you?
I left a seminar. I mean, I just love it.
Yeah, I listened to the 2x to 10x book recently, and I was like, I need to make some changes.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
That's where the new assistant's coming in.
Yay, I'm so happy for you.
You know what? I'm with you. I got a new assistant. I hired them this last Friday. They're moving up in July. And I was like, thank God, because I know exactly where you're at. And then with getting more value for us, we can do even more, right? We got to have
like,
it.
I know what my brain is capable of, but it's bogged down with like trying to document my life and put it out on Instagram to help people see how we live and make those changes. Like, I literally need a full-time person to just like document everything I do.
I agree. I agree.
100%.
So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. It was a pleasure today to meet you and to be on. We can't wait to see the outcome of this. Thank you so much.
Yes, so everybody make sure you pop over and see what they're doing, because even if you don't want to do one of their schools, their model is beautiful and I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today at the Homestead Education, and I hope that I have given you something to think about this week. To help others find me, please comment and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. You can also follow me on Facebook at the Homestead Education and Instagram at homestead_education. Do you have questions that you would like answered or just want to say hi? Please email me at hello@thehomesteadeducation.com. Until next time, keep growing!